everyone. Welcome to Culture Binge. This is the Wisecrack podcast where we explore the ins and outs and ups and downs of the cultural zeitgeist. I'm Michael, joined as always by the guy who recently promised me he could turn $1,000 into $10,000 if I just trust him, Alec. And the woman who once sold me on her French countryside Airbnb, which was actually a terrifying cave that I had to be rescued from, Serby. How are you all doing today?
Well, how are you?
Good. You sound low. Not emotionally, just can't hear you that well. But I'm sure we'll fix that in just a jiff. So we got a lot to talk about today. We got beef with the government, not in the way you might think. We're going to learn about new ways of scamming money. And I guess some French people got stuck in a cave. I'm in the dark on this one, so I'm excited to learn about it. But to get started, let's do some slaps and chaps. Serby, I would love to start with you if that's okay this week.
Yes. How's my volume?
It's better now. I can hear. I just want to make sure that you are the loudest person and then Alec is a little bit less loud.
Yeah. Agreed.
Excellent. So with Chaps is the situation going on in India. It's so heartbreaking and distressing, and I'm so sad, and I hope things improve quickly. What slaps? I recently learned about this app called Be My Eyes. It's also a website, BeMyEyes.com. And so it's a website that brings sight to blind and low vision people.
What?
And BeMyEyes.com connects blind. I'm just going to read this from the website because it's really well written. BeMyEyes.com is a free app that connects blind and low vision people with sighted volunteers for visual assistance through a live video call. So this is how it works. A blind or low vision person will request help through the app, and then a sighted volunteer will receive a video call. And the person might need help with reading instructions, or maybe they want to check the date on like milk to make sure it hasn't expired, or maybe they want to distinguish colors, read directions, or navigate new surroundings. And someone I know recently received their first call, and the person who asked for assistance wanted help doing online research that would have taken just a really long time to do on their own. And it's a great app. I love that it makes a positive impact on someone's life. And whether you're a blind or low vision person, or you want to be a sighted volunteer, download Be My Eyes app for iOS and Android today.
I just can't help but think about what if a low vision person wanted to do something illegal, but they needed help to do it. And I wonder which volunteers would help them do that. That's all.
I would do it.
Depends what the crime is.
Yeah, so if you're a person who would use that app, maybe do something like call someone and be like, which one is the methamphetamine and which one is the rock candy? I need to know.
I was thinking like shoplifting from Whole Foods.
I can't hear Alec Opperman at all. I think he's muted himself.
Sorry, I did mute myself. I was thinking like helping someone shoplift from Whole Foods. That's what I want to do.
Don't you do that? Does one of you?
No, you're thinking of a guest we had, maybe.
Oh, okay.
No, stealing from Whole Foods is great. Although I realize if you go when it's not at the rush and you're at the self-checkout, there's more likely to be employees just standing there. So I think if you are going to do that, which you shouldn't, but if you are, go when it's more crowded because the employees aren't there. But also, if I'm working at Whole Foods, getting paid, $12 an hour, I don't care. Steal anything in front of me. I don't work there, though, so that doesn't matter.
I just don't think I would want to get in trouble for shoplifting at Whole Foods.
Just don't get
that's
caught
why
then.
you need the good guide, the volunteer on the Be My Eyes. I mean, not that you're vision impaired, but
And you're just on the thing and you're like, I want to steal this. Tell me if I'm at the right. Okay. Do you have any? And you did your chaps as well. I forgot. We talked about the situation in India. Horrible. And I think we're all thinking about that and wishing we could do something to help. But sadly, none of us have access to large reserves of vaccines or the patents.
You can donate money.
Oh, yeah. You can donate money. I guess I just mean that, like, we can donate money and that feels good. And I'm sure it can do something. But it's like we can't do, like, the real thing we need to do. You know what I mean?
Well, we could, write mean things about Bill Gates and how he's used his billions of dollars to advocate for patent restrictions that make it impossible for places like India to get waivers to,
Don't like it. Let's make another video about how Bill Gates sucks.
I didn't know this.
Oh yeah, Lindsay McGooey, No Such Thing as a Free Gift. There's a lot of good journalism about this, specifically with the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine. Oxford University wanted to make the intellectual property free and open to the world because they, had received, I think, government support. And Bill Gates and his crowd came and was like, no, you need to patent this. And so not that specifically Oxford, the AstraZeneca vaccine would be the sort of magic bullet in India, but it's like this sort of patent regime of laws around it. Google about it. There's good journalist, Tim Schwab, I think, is one who talk a lot about this.
Yeah.
What a monster.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone Google it and get real mad. Speaking of real mad, but first, real positive, Alex, Slaps and Chaps.
Oh, yeah. Still boycotting Chaps. Everything's great. Here's my chap. Serbi on her Slaps always has something like wholesome and uplifting and positive for the community.
She does.
And I think that's great. But what Chaps is, it makes me feel like the garbage human that I am.
Yeah.
So
I'm
Chaps,
like a mirror. I reflect back what you see.
What Chaps is Serbi reflecting my inner rottenness. But what Slaps is, I discovered a new podcast. I don't even remember how. I feel like several people told me about it. So sorry if I am ignoring them or not giving them the credit. But Maintenance Phase, I did some hiking, listened to like 4 episodes. It's about the diet and wellness industry and how most of it's bullshit, but like in a way that I find is very like refreshing, smart, and nuanced. These are journalists who talk a lot about like methodology of studies. They are not overwhelmingly. They did a whole episode about Halo Top, which I thought was incredible because it's like, listen, it's a tasty food. It's good. It's not necessarily like going to kill you or anything like that. However, like all the marketing claims are super fucked up. And so like, don't feel bad eating Halo Top if you like it, but also don't fall for all their bullshit. They did a thing about The Biggest Loser, which is a very fucked up show. I've learned. I never watched it.
One of my good friends was on that show. If we ever want to talk to him about it, I'm sure he'd come on.
I do. Did they sign an NDA?
And he's making a documentary about his experience on it, and I bet he would love to talk about it on here.
Yes.
This is normally something I would say when we're not streaming, but I'm just going to say it that we should invite him on. He's a really great guy.
Yeah, but anyway, Maintenance Phase, I think it's really good. I think the research is good, the reporting is good, and people who like calling out bullshit things will like it.
That sounds really good. I'm going to look that up. And I actually am. Sometimes people say that, like on a podcast because they want to give this semblance like, oh, we're all friends and take each other's advice. I'm actually going to listen to that. Great. Okay.
Usually what I do.
Yeah. So Slaps and Chaps. I have 2 slaps written down, but I'm just going to pick one. Okay. I got really happy in the past week because concerts started coming back. I started to get pre-excited because I saw a friend who works in the music industry, and I asked him if he had like any news on when concerts would come back, and like he was like a spy. He kind of like looked both ways and was like, "You're gonna start hearing stuff in the next few weeks," and he was right. A lot of outdoor venues where I live have started to announce concerts. Some indoor places for the fall. Live music's one of my favorite things, and one of the things that makes me feel like I don't want to just like go into the ocean and never come back. So I'm very excited that that's happening. The chap, which is kind of related, is so I did. And to be clear, so no one judges me, I'm fully vaccinated. But myself and a fully vaccinated friend, my best friend, in fact, who hadn't really hung out one-on-one and done something in a long time, went to a brewery this weekend and sat outside and had a beer, and it was fun. But also, I found it really hard to like readjust to being out in the world and seeing all these people and all this stuff. And I guess like. And this is very naive. I had the realization that I was like, oh man, this past year might have fucked me up a little bit.
Oh yeah.
And I just wasn't quite ready for that. So now I've been thinking about like how I need to plan a gradual readjustment into socialization. But I'll call that a chap because as an extrovert, I was excited to be back in the world, and the world was scary.
Yeah.
God. If this was hard for you, I'm terrified for people who are introverts and don't like being outside with other humans.
Oh, you guys are fucked.
No, just thinking about it is making me like my heart's palpitating.
But in fairness too, I'm an extrovert who's also neurotic and anxious. So I think let's blame my stuff on my extra doses of neuroticism and anxiety. I'm sure for everyone else it'll be fine and great. Probably. We're all going to die. Okay, so let's get into our topics. Like I said before, we're going to talk about some caves. We're going to talk about some finance stuff. So definitely get your bankers on the phone because you're going to want to make some big investments by the time this is done. But let's start. We're going to get like real political. I know everyone, you listen to this and you think we often avoid things. We're subtle, but we're going to get right into it. And we're going to talk about the government's beef problem and the government's attack on big beef. I'm just kidding, but fun story this week. So the government or the president released some new climate standards. That's good. You know, we care about the environment, blah, blah, blah. That's great. But the media response on the right was kind of funny. And it was kind of funny because Larry Kudlow, for one, put out a statement or tweeted he said something on Fox News about how the president wants us to all be drinking plant-based beer and grilling Brussels sprouts. First of all, what does he think beer is made of? Does he think beer
Wait, did
is
he
made
really
of cow
say
bones?
that?
Swear to God, look it up. Google it.
I thought you were being like exaggerating, like plant-based beer. He would have done, but he actually said that.
I mean, here I'll give you the quote this is Larry Kudlow said this that he wants you. He said on July 4th you'd have to throw back a plant-based beer with your grilled Brussels sprouts. He said that on Fox News.
I'm glad that people understand what beer is.
Yeah. I just like, what is this what certain people, have they just been drinking beer thinking they're drinking like the spinal fluid of a cow?
I've been waiting. This is like the labeling creep, like for like gluten-free, this will happen. Like gluten-free oats, like oats are gluten-free. Why are you advertising this? But I'm waiting for the beer to start getting the plant-based label.
Yeah, Bud Light is going to be like the first plant-based beer.
It's healthy. It's made from plants, guys.
Yeah, it's grains and water. If your beer isn't vegan, you have problems. I guess I'm trying to think if there's any good reason beer wouldn't be vegan.
There are beers that are not technically vegetarian or vegan because there's like fish bladders used in the process, and most vegetarians I know don't care enough to look into it.
Yeah, and there's some stouts that will use like a lacto fermentation, so like elements of lactose to make something a milk stout. But whatever, this isn't a beer podcast. We're not those guys. Yeah, we're dudes with beards, but this isn't an IPA podcast. So that was the initial response, and this all started because of a Daily Mail article that falsely stated that if the current administration's climate plan went into effect, we'd only be able to have burgers once a year. Now, of course, that's not what was said. What was mentioned in the climate plan had to do with emission standards. And as I think most of us know at this point, the ass gas of cows is a big source of carbon emissions. And related to this whole thing, the food website and magazine Epicurious put out a statement a couple days ago about how they were leaving beef behind. So if the government isn't really leaving beef behind, our next most trusted source for democratic process, Epicurious, a Condé Nast publication, is. And I think this was kind of interesting. So I'll just look at really quick the top of this article. You can find it. It's on Epicurious. It's called The Planet on the Plate, Why Epicurious Left Meat Behind. But they say this is the lead of their article. It says, for any person or publication wanting to envision a more sustainable way to cook, cutting out beef is a worthwhile first step. Almost 15% of greenhouse gas emissions globally come from livestock and everything involved in raising it. 61% of those emissions can be traced back to beef. Cows are 20 times less efficient to raise than beans and roughly 3 times less efficient than poultry or pork. And I think this is something that most of us know at this point, but beef is real bad for the environment. And of course, there's if one is a vegan for reasons of animal welfare and anti-cruelty, that's dope too. But there's some pretty valid environmental reasons for wanting to cut back on or eliminate meat consumption. And this magazine decided to do their part by not giving their customers and their fans beef recipes anymore. I did not see anything about plant-based beer there.
And this was mandated by law by Joe Biden. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, Joe Biden came in with his climate Gestapo and stomped them all to the floor.
Sorry, for everyone listening, we have established that Joe Biden is not actually trying to legally mandate how much beef you eat. That guy loves beef. He's a meat and potatoes guy. Just look at him. Yeah.
And anyone can look this up. There's a legislation that is being proposed by the administration to do climate things. Part of the climate stuff involves trying to have less carbon emission. One of the things that leads to greenhouse gas emission, like we just said, is livestock, which is 15% of it globally. So all the administration has proposed is, hey, greenhouse gas, maybe we cut back. Part of that would be livestock, but there is no thing in any government document that's like no burgers for the people. You can still have your burgers. But Epicurious poses the question, should we maybe cut back on that individually? Should we stop as sort of an ethical, for an ethical reason, should we stop publishing recipes for beef-based things? So I'm trying to think, out of my co-host here, I think one of you is not a beef person. Serby, do you consume beef?
No.
Okay, so no, so I'm the only one I think who's on this that even semi-regularly consumes beef. So what do the non-beef consumers think, both about, I guess, this reaction against some policy about reducing greenhouse gas, and the idea that a food magazine would take it upon themselves to stop promoting the consumption of beef?
I think it's an interesting idea. I think any little bit helps, and I think it could encourage readers to rethink their consumption and maybe make adjustments to help the environment.
Yeah, I think that nobody really tries to do this, but I think the smart strategy is not people can't eat hamburgers, but like, hey, look at this other delicious food. And I think for years and years, we've just been cramming down people's faces, like, unless there's like a piece of chicken or meat on your plate, it is not a meal. And I think people, well, a lot of boomers think that, but I think people are reevaluating that and realizing how like awesome and filling like cauliflower and broccoli and those grilled Brussels sprouts can be. And so I think that's good. I also thought it was interesting that Epicurious stopped doing it, stopped putting beef recipes a year, and nobody noticed.
Yeah, I should have mentioned that part. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's that. And also I do find the whole thing very interesting of like, there's America, we eat beef, when really like getting into, this is a little bit in Upton Sinclair's the Jungle and sort of the news cycle around that. But the Beef Trust, which were, I'll call them the Facebooks and Twitters of early 1900s meat industry. There were these huge, cow and meat monopolies, basically convinced the American public that like they need meat every single day, every single meal. They invented modern sort of industrial agriculture and made beef much cheaper. But it's like basically this pretty new thing in the last 100 years that we're eating the amount of beef that we are. It's not some sort of like, oh, I'm, living like people did thousands of years ago, or even living like someone did in the 1700s. I think people sort of cling on to this in an interesting way.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's, it's been the thing folks have talked about for a while. Even Leonardo DiCaprio talked about this in his climate documentary from a few years ago, which I forget the title of, that I watched when I was very tired on a plane.
Douchey McDouche. That's the name of the doc.
It's called Douchey McDouche Saves the Planet. But something came up in that movie, people have talked about this for a while, is, I think there is a potential benefit from like a mindset change around beef. I personally, because like I'm going to fix the planet as a one-man show, have tried to think of like the consumption of beef as something that's like a very special occasion thing, and something that's only to be done with like good quality beef that's raised in a responsible way. But like the Epicurious thing to me is cool. Like I think it's a chill thing of them to do. I don't think it's the sort of thing that can lead to the impact that we need. And I think sadly it does fall under the umbrella of like the shift of responsibility to consumers, and then like the abdication of responsibility for, I mean, in a sense, like I guess, and I don't want to get political, I stay out of politics, but in a sense, if the Daily Mail was correct and the government was actively restricting factory farming, that like would be what we would need to actively cut down on that level of emission. So, from individual responsibility, I think it's a good thing Epicurious is doing that. I think it sets a good precedent. I think it's a good thing in general for people to consume more plants and less meat, whether or not you're doing it because you want to be ethical, like Moby, who has vegan for life tattooed on his neck like a freak, or you're doing it because you care about the environment, which is dank. But yeah, I just one of those things where like the Epicurious thing, cool. Yeah, gonna do long-term things, gonna really change stuff. No, not really. But maybe I'm being cynical.
Yeah, go ahead, Serby. Sorry.
I think something's better than nothing, and I'm glad to see a company do something. So I do agree with you that it's not going to make a huge dent in how we need it to, but maybe it'll start a conversation, which is exactly what it's doing.
It was funny that their post was sponsored by Light Life, the meat substitute brand.
Yeah.
So it's like, you can't even do that without corporate branding.
I think I'm all about I think corporations have, as you said, specifically shifted the burden of responsibility on consumers instead. Like, hey, don't mind us. We're pumping, hundreds of tons of CO2 into the air. But you should stop using plastic straws. I do really agree with that argument, but I feel like meat is a specific thing in that, there's not, maybe there's ways to reduce the CO2 emissions of cow, but it's not like they're a factory that's using fossil fuels and it's up to them to, use cleaner fuels and scrub the air that they pump out there, or, buy carbon offsets. I guess the meat industry could buy carbon offsets, but that's not perfect either. And so it's really, I think, the one thing where it's like, actually, this isn't the way that certain things are mined irresponsibly or produced irresponsibly. Like there's no breaking from the eating of a cow with like the CO2 emissions of a cow, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I guess too, like the whole thing seems like we can focus on the cow stuff, but even as the statistics show, if we were to cut out, cow consumption completely, that would be 60% of 15%. So 8 to 9% of greenhouse gas emissions. And then it's totally. Like, what's the other 91, kids? And I think that's one of the issues, that much of the other large-scale greenhouse gas emission is the responsibility of very small private, not by small, I just mean not a lot of private companies that do a lot of damage that we're not talking about and that our personal ethics can't do much about.
Yeah, I this is a little unrelated. I just want to say the comments happening in the live chat are interesting because I'm used to saying something like, oh, I don't eat meat, and everyone calling me some sort of soy boy cuck. Fine, whatever. Yeah. I probably am that. Or like weird conspiracy theories not conspiracy theories, like, where do you get your protein, bro? Like dumb shit. I would say 90% of the messages are not like that. And it seems like Great. At least the audience today is, various degrees of like industrial farming's the problem, or meat is like you're a whiny baby if you can't eat less meat. And so I find maybe I'm witnessing a cultural shift. Maybe it's just based on who clicked on this video. I don't know. I find it very interesting. I'm used to just constantly shutting up about my dietary habits because people like to make jokes.
No, people are accepting you and your diet for who they are, and I really appreciate that.
Do people ever, Alec, when you go out to eat or when you used to go out to eat with other people, did others try to force you to eat meat or like make comments about how like it makes them uncomfortable that you don't eat meat? Because I've always had that happen to me.
No, but also I became vegetarian as an adult, and I feel like the people I was around were not that. Although I will say, when I was younger, and I've said this before, when I was young, I was a piece of shit. I would like make fun of vegetarians and vegans and be like, come on, eat a pepperoni, man. I was a bad person, so it's fine. Don't be that person.
Yeah. I've been vegetarian a few different times in my life, but I'm just fair weather. But the first time I went vegetarian was in college. And when I went home for like Thanksgiving or Christmas, my mom started crying because she didn't know what to cook for me anymore and like couldn't conceive of me eating food that wasn't meat. And there was a lot of like, but I can make you chicken, right? And I was like, hey mom, is that based in, can that thing walk and make noises and reproduce? Well, we're probably not gonna eat that one.
Yeah.
Does it have a face?
I feel like we're past that though. Like I just don't know anyone who would like make fun of a vegan or vegetarian.
Oh, they're all over the place.
Fucking whack. That's stupid. Like there's so many good reasons to make fun of your friends. That's a bad one. So if anyone is listening to this and you have a friend you enjoy making fun of and your main thing is that, email us and I'll come up with better things you can make fun of them for than that. Because that's just lazy. Do better.
Their haircut, I'm gonna stop.
I don't know. You know what you want to do if you want to make fun of your friend? Do an Ancestry.com or like 21andMe for them and find out horrific things about their ancestors.
Oh, that they're like slaveholders.
Yeah. So you can be like, oh, so you're German on one side, right? Went back a few generations, not looking so good, chief. Or something like that. I don't know. But making fun of people for that is whack. Have you had a hard time, Serby, with people being a dick to you for not wanting to eat animals?
I have had that, yeah. Or like people saying, one of my friends' husband, so he would say to me, it makes me really uncomfortable that you don't eat meat and you don't drink a lot. It like makes me feel really bad. And I was like, why do my life choices make you feel bad about yourself? Maybe you should engage in some self-examination.
Maybe it's about how like your wholesomeness makes me feel uncomfortable because I'm a bad person. That's just what's happening on the like, dietary level with this person.
This sounds like someone who just like has a straight up drinking problem and eats too much meat, and then sees someone who has healthy relationships and boundaries with those things, and it's like, it makes me uncomfortable that seeing your boundaries and resolve reminds me that I have an inability to do these things. So I think the same thing about people that don't drink. Like, I hate that.
Yeah.
Like, when people that don't drink get treated like that's weird, or when they're like, it makes me uncomfortable. Like, why? Like, that, to me, that just means you have a problem. If anyone ever says to me, like, it makes me uncomfortable that so-and-so's at the party not drinking.
Microaggression on my being. They're too green and leafy. Guys, there's so many good, I'm going to fuck up the name. Olera brassica is the name of, like, the plant family. That's Brussels sprouts, broccoli, etc. There's the class of memes about them. It's just vegetable memes. Who would have thought? So good. Google it.
Yeah.
Well, here, are good.
Yeah. And here's the thing too, everyone. A lot of us have been, inside a lot, haven't been as active as normal. We're getting ready. We talked about this last time for like, a real wild summer. Whether you're vegan or not, whether you care about climate change or not, just like eat some vegetables for a few months, and then you'll feel better as you get invited to a lake hangout or a backyard party or something like that. You want to feel healthy and energetic this summer. Yeah, we're in the pocket of big plant, and I'm encouraging you to eat some vegetables. And you know what? Donate some money, and Serbia will do a vegetable mukbang.
I want to make one comment before the next. Guy in Britain says, "Man, this is silly. Of course, it's okay to make fun of vegans." I just want to say, Guy in Britain, your food sucks. That's what I have to say.
Oh shit, this got aggressive. Guy in Britain is someone that
also
lived in Britain
family.
for a while. There's some good stuff. The problem in
I'm
Britain
sorry to all the other British people listening.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think like it's just not a fun way to make fun of someone. I'm not impressed. Like, I don't think if I saw someone rip on someone for being vegan, I'm like, wow, look at this intellectual wit. It's just like boring. Do something better.
It's very lazy.
Yeah, very lazy. Okay, so let's move on. We've all figured this out. The government's taking our beef away. We will rebel. We'll talk about that more in 2 weeks when we have a plan. Another part of American culture, along with beef consumption, is sketchy business. Alec, I feel like you're on the beat of sketchy business news or sketchy investment news this week.
Yeah, maybe I've mentioned this before. There's a YouTube channel that's worth checking out called CoffeeZilla. Kind of spelled exactly the way it looks. He covers like financial scams, and I like scams and just weird subculture. Scams. Well, yeah, I like scams. I like I just really grifters, man. Whether they're anti-vax grifters, financial grifters, Elizabeth Holmes, Firefest, I just want to mainline it. But the oh, Jesus. Sorry, I'm looking for my notes, but they are on a different tab. I got too many tabs.
It's okay. You're going to find them. Go through your tabs. We can, manage things until then.
Okay, I got it. So CoffeeZilla did an interview with this academic. The academic published an article. It's called Towards an Entrepreneurial Economy, the Entrepreneurship Industry and the Rise of Veblennian Entrepreneurs. The authors on that are Hartman, Spicer, and Crab. But the whole interview is kind of the industry of people who want to teach you to become an entrepreneur. This is probably very familiar to, even watching CoffeeZilla videos, you'll get ads for like, start a drop shipping business of my branded diapers and make $8,000 a day. That's sort of the most scammy version. There's certainly sort of, in the financial space, take my financial hack, start a business, et cetera, et cetera. You've got things like Trump University. You go to a hotel, you take some sketchy class. I would even say that like Nexium is kind of this. You might say MLMs are a version of this sort of entrepreneur economy where you are selling people stuff to want to become an entrepreneur. Not to mention self-help, et cetera. It's a very wide industry. But what I thought was really interesting is basically the thesis of this article. And CoffeeZilla has like a 50-minute interview with the guy that I recommend people check out. But here's a quote from the article. The growing entrepreneurship industry and the way it has transformed entrepreneurship are an important aspect of understanding the decline of entrepreneur quality. Basically, there's more entrepreneurs than ever, but they're also, success is more rare than ever. The percentage of people succeeding, I'm not talking about like people who become the next Uber, but I just like make a basic sustainable growing business, that's down. Here's a quote: by leveraging the ideology of entrepreneurialism to mass produce and mass market products, the entrepreneurship industry has made possible what we term the Blenian entrepreneurship. This is entrepreneurship pursued primarily as a form of conspicuous consumption and is fundamentally different from the innovation-driven entrepreneurship that it emulates and superficially resembles. So to unpack that a little bit, we've talked about him before. There's a sociologist, Thorsten Veblen, who coined the term conspicuous consumption. This is basically keeping up with the Joneses. People buy things to present an image to their neighbors, to their friends, to their loved ones. This is, I got to buy a new sports car because the neighbor's got a sports car. I have to look like I'm doing well. I have to sort of transmit this message. There's also what's called the Blenian goods, which is, a good that becomes more desirable as it gets more expensive. Again, part of that sort of circuit of conspicuous consumption. But the whole argument is that this is what the consuming and purchasing of courses on entrepreneurship, all this whole industry has become, is that people will spend $1,000 on a class, they'll spend $5,000. It must be extra good on a class, and they really want to signal to the world in a sort of conspicuous consumption kind of way that they are an entrepreneur. I'm sure you've seen this in your social media feeds. Whether it's a person with an MLM. And they've like started their own business, quote unquote, whether it's like some dude who's taking pictures of some Ferrari or private jet he's rented.
I love those guys.
Yeah, those guys are the greatest. So I think it's really interesting. I think it's something we've all encountered a lot. I also find it interesting because this is a business professor basically saying that this is a problem for like the market, right? In that this isn't what he says, but my take is basically capitalism is destroying capitalism. Like the conspicuous consumption of entrepreneurship and sort of capitalist ethics is destroying the quality of because the market needs good businesses, a diverse range of businesses, new ideas, disruption, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But when it's basically all these wannabes, that's not great for things. Yeah.
So how much does that relate, the conspicuous consumption thing, to because what this always makes me think of is how innovation is like a lie. And what I mean by that is all of the startups and entrepreneurs, also anyone who says they're an entrepreneur is sus. Anyone can just say that. People just say they're an entrepreneur. Why? Because you started an LLC? Shut up. But this whole notion of innovation seems to be built on top of this economic ideology of infinite growth, that there's this possibility of infinite growth. That's what all these venture capitalists who people think are really smart, who aren't smart. They just invest in 100 different things and one of them works out. And in any other field, if your odds were 1 in 100, you would be bad at the thing. But are built upon this idea of infinite growth rather than someone starting a business that's simply sustainable and can provide a lifestyle for their employees or something like that. And it seems to me the mindset of millennial and Gen Z people who are paying for scam courses online to start businesses are just caught up in this really faulty ideology of purely infinite growth. And that's accelerating all of the worst aspects of contemporary capitalism. But does that seem to be a part of this too? Or am I just getting conspiratorial?
I don't think you're conspiratorial. I don't think it's exactly. I think, to be honest, it's a spectrum. You have the sort of entrepreneur or wantrepreneur, whatever class they are, who, wants to make a good 6-figure income, whatever. And then there's the people who are I'm going to make the next Uber. Now, granted, one of the sort of analogies that comes out is this is like professional sports. You have millions of people who want to do this thing and maybe 100 who succeed, right? And so I think it's not quite all infinite growth. I mean, again, I would describe it even as a spectrum. There are people who might take, business courses who are trying to start a business, and maybe they're sort of signaling their sort of entrepreneurship in different levels on social media. And I'm sure there are cases where it's murky of oh, are you just trying to start a restaurant in your hometown and doing that, but maybe you're a little like too forward with like the look at this cool car I have.
And if only we had an MBA on this podcast, an expert in the field of business who could explain all of this to us.
I think it's an indication of maybe people wanting to be their own boss and not want to work. Like one thing that I've heard a lot recently is, and I think this has to do with part of it is like the rise of social media and influencers. Like you can have a career as an influencer. So I think people see, like younger generations see entrepreneurship is not something that's unattainable. Like now they can do it. And with the internet and being able to connect with anybody around the world, you can sell things. Websites have made it easier to be an entrepreneur, like Etsy and eBay and things like that. You can sell things directly to consumers. So I think it could just be like this shift, whereas older generations thought that you had to get a job. You worked at the same company for 20 years or whatever, and then you retired. And now people want to be their own boss. They don't want to work for other people. They want to set their own hours. They want more flexibility. So that's what I think when I hear of this change. One thing you said earlier about wanting to keep up with the Joneses and wanting to like buy certain things to project an image. And this is totally off topic, but wanting to project an image. I feel I live in an affluent area, and I feel pressure to dress up when I go out and to look a certain way, not because I want people to think that I'm rich, but so that people don't think that I'm poor and then treat me like shit. Because I'm a person of color living in a predominantly Caucasian area, so they'll naturally assume that I have no money and they'll treat me very badly. So I feel like I have to do those things. I mean, I'm not like renting a private jet, but I definitely can't go out in yoga pants like the white girl next door.
Right. Unless they're $500 yoga pants, then it might be.
Unless they're $500 yoga pants that say like Gucci on the side.
Gotta get those
like
Gucci yoga pants
on the ass.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Alec.
Well, I was gonna say the be your own boss thing. I think it makes sense, but one of the problems that this sort of interview outlines is that, I mean, I 100% get that, and I think that's sort of part of the gig economy at large, and that goes over to like freelance graphic designers and all this other stuff. But I think it's, and to be honest, it's similar to the MLM problem. People want to be their own boss and they want like financial, they want to make a good living. Maybe they're sort of dreaming a little too high of like, I'm going to make millions of dollars doing this. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think people want to pay their bills. They want to save money. They want to go on cocaine benders. And so what sort of is brought up in this interview is that people who are an entrepreneur as a career, like we only talk about and we only have interviews with the survivors of that, right? The people who succeeded, the people who started Uber. But when you do this as a career, you're more likely to make less money. Even if you work for entrepreneurs, like in startups, your sort of average career earnings, according to this academic, are lower. And, on the sort of, and there's always examples to be like, well, I worked for the startup and I got, a $400,000 stock grant. It worked out for me. And that's true. But, it's the NBA athlete problem, right?
Yeah. I think Serby made a really important distinction before between like the person who, whether they're an influencer or starts an Etsy business or something on their own, versus the sort of like magical thinking of a lot of entrepreneurship. Because I do think someone who like makes cool shit on Etsy has a tangible product and is able to actually make money off that without the need of speculative investment. That's great. And honestly, like I've probably trashed influencing before on this podcast. I apologize. But most influencers are better at business than most entrepreneurial startups because the startups don't make money. They have negative income, whereas the influencers at least are bringing in positive revenue. So I think there's like this distinction between those who want to branch out on their own by, having a product or a service that is a tangible thing they create and are able to bring in positive income for, and people who, sell ideas who don't have tangible products and it's all built on speculative investment. And, out of these people too, I just have to say, like, my least favorite type of person in this world this is a tangent, but I'll say it, are like the Tim Ferrisses and Gary V's of the world, who have never really done anything but write books about how you can do the things they've never done and make a ton of money off that. And who've like come into inherited wealth, made one good investment, and now they make millions on like speaking tours and online courses and all that shit. It's just the biggest scam artist bullshit. So start an Etsy store. But either way, I thought that was an important distinction that Serby made before.
I will say, if anyone's been involved in any sort of like part of this, whether taking, online courses for $100 or $1,000, I mean, I get it. I kind of want to hear from you. Email us at culturebinge@wisecrack.co. Maybe you've been the coach. I don't know. I just want to hear it all, because I think the whole space is very fascinating. And again, it is the spectrum of like the most outright scams to like, oh, this is good business advice, but most of the people who get this advice still aren't going to succeed, and maybe that's okay,
I have a good scam entrepreneurial company story, but I think I might have signed an NDA. That means I shouldn't talk about it.
Yeah, I know about that.
I'll look into it. All I'll say is that many companies are they're full of shit. But yeah, I would love to hear people's stories with that. I would love to hear any examples of people getting caught up in this stuff. Any final thoughts on this before we move on to what I am finding the most fascinating and thought-provoking topic of the day? Okay, so often... Oh, Alec, are you guys going to say something?
I was going to say, if you start a business, obviously email Serby and give her a 1% ownership stake just for no work.
Cut us in.
She has an MBA. I mean...
Yeah. But also cut us in.
I'll tell you if your idea is dumb or not.
Yes. Everyone send business ideas to culturebinge@wisecrack.co, and Serby will respond with either yes or no. Nothing else. She'll just tell you if your business idea is good or bad, because she has things to do. Like get Gucci sweatpants so she can walk around the neighborhood comfortably. Now, most weeks on this podcast, topics come up and we share links to things. And then for the most part, we like look at them because we want to be informed going into this. This is the rare case where I saw Serby's topic and just thought to myself, I want to know nothing because I want to experience this live. I want Serby to explain what happened. And I just want to experience it like an enthusiastic child who knows nothing. So all I know, Serby, is we're going to learn about French cave people.
It's not that exciting. I should have written a little bit more in Telegram. I saw the excitement and I was like, oh, they're going to be disappointed.
No, it's
so
going to be
over
great.
The weekend, 15 volunteers emerged from a dark cave in southwestern France. For 40 days, the group lived and explored the cave as part of the Deep Time Project. Scientists at the Human Adaptation Institute led a 1.2 million euro, which is $1.5 million, project. And they say that the experiment will help them better understand how people adapt to drastic changes in living conditions and environments. So inside the cave, there was no sunlight. The temperature was 10 degrees Celsius, which is 50 degrees Fahrenheit. And their relative humidity was 100%. And the volunteers had no contact with anybody, with family, friends. They couldn't watch the news. They had nothing. Participants naturally lost their sense of time when the researchers went to go get them to tell them that their 40 days was up. One volunteer thought that they had been there for only 23 days, while others believed that it was closer to 30 days. And the volunteers followed their biological clocks to know when to wake up, go to sleep, and eat. And they counted days in sleep cycles rather than hours because they didn't have cell phones or watches. And when they emerged from the cave, I thought this was really interesting. 2/3 stated that they wished they could have stayed in the cave longer. And they wanted to finish group projects, and there's no information about what these group projects were.
I hope
but
it's orgies.
Oh, 100%. I was like, French people in the cave. I was like, 100% cave orgies. And one participant said that it was like pressing pause on her life. And she felt like there wasn't a rush to do anything. And she also said she wanted to be in the cave longer. And this is interesting to me because, first of all, it feels like a lot of money to spend on having 15 people in a cave. But also, I'm I'm unsure whether it's because it already feels like we've all been confined and living in the cave for a past year, but or it's like spending 40 days with strangers in a confined space. I just couldn't do it. In any case, I've been thinking about their desire to remain in the cave and the feeling of pressing pause on your life and not having to worry about what's going to happen in the next hour or two. It feels like this experiment tells a story of people not wanting to, people not being able to live in the moment or feel free from obligations. And even when you're on vacation, it's not like you can stop making decisions most of the time. You still have to deal with challenges or rush to get to the airport or figure out food or whatever. And if you have children and families, you have to consider their well-being as well. So in the cave, you don't have to worry about anything. The food was given to you. You could sleep. You could work on your group projects. You could ride your little bike to get electricity. You could just exist. So it's not unsurprising to me after I thought about it that people would want to stay in the cave, because who would want to go back to real life and like deal with the pandemic and go to work and deal with everything else? So I wouldn't want to live in a cave with other strangers, but I can see the appeal in wanting to disconnect completely from the world and wanting to focus on small tasks that could make me feel productive. I'm very interested in what these group projects were. And if anyone listening is a cave dweller who participated in this
one of the 15
experiment,
people.
Yeah, the odds are high.
please reach out. Desperate to speak to you.
I think they were starting businesses to teach people business classes was the group project.
Oh
right?
boy.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Okay, this is like both really cool and really sad, because to me it's just like modern life is so shit that they put these people in a fucking damp cave with no time or anything, and they were like, please don't make us come out. And these are French people who have 37-hour work weeks and mandatory 1-hour lunch breaks and fucking 8 years off if they get pregnant. Not really 8 years off, it's like 1. But like French life isn't even that bad, all things considered. Great wine culture too. And they wanted to stay in the cave. That just makes me sad.
It reminds me of there's like in psychoanalysis the idea of the death drive, which is like we all want to return to the warm, non-existent embrace of our mother's womb. In that, like, life is painful, it hurts, and don't we just want to not exist? And it feels like instead of a womb, it's a cave, and instead of death, it's group projects. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if it said anything in the article about this, Serby, but like one thought too is without the sun, God, I just feel like, did no one have seasonal affective disorder in there? I just feel like I would get so low energy.
I wonder if they gave them vitamin supplements. Also, I don't know how long it takes to kick in.
Vitamin Ritalin or vitamin cocaine or something?
No, isn't seasonal? It's vitamin D, right?
Vitamin D, yeah. And you can do light box therapy.
Maybe they got light boxes on their bikes.
There's not a lot of information about this. No information about light boxes, vitamins.
Hopefully they make a documentary so we can watch it and see what it was like.
Yeah, I would be interested in watching it. I want to know how shitty their lives were that they would prefer a group project. Like, I hate group projects.
I bet their lives were good, though. I bet if we look into it, like, some of these people had good jobs, they had families. Imagine if you were the spouse of one of these people, and they're like, please don't make me leave the cave. And you're like, but Dad, I want you to come home.
I'm also very curious how no one got in a fight or, like, 40 days with other humans. Like, you didn't get in an argument. There was no disagreement.
You would think someone would kill someone else. Because, you know, some would say we might go back to, like, a state of nature in there. And things would get real weird and Hobbesian. Yeah.
I would have tried to find another cave. Like, I would have dragged my little cot into another hole area and just stayed there.
Like, I wonder how much space they had. Yeah, did they have like individual tents or pods, or were they all in just one main room?
There were 3 different areas in the cave. One was for sleeping, the other was for eating, and then the third was like group project area, I believe. I read that somewhere.
Yeah, so you're sleeping, you're eating, or you're fucking, yeah. Those are the 3 French life cycles anyways. That's what those people do. They sleep, they eat, and they screw. That's not a judgment, by the way,
What
to
a
be
dream.
clear. Yeah. Wow. I wonder, so is that the business idea, that we construct some cave colonies in like Utah or something and sell people on the magical experience of disconnecting from life, but then we have to monetize their time there, so they pay us to be there, but we like sell data or do research on them or like secretly live stream them or something?
It's like cave Airbnb.
Yeah.
You could rent a cave.
What if you went in the cave and something really bad happened? Kind of like a 28
Sign
days
a
later
waiver.
type thing. Yeah.
Release of liability, not
Well,
involved.
it's like what happened to, what's the actor? Jared Leto? How do we say it? Leto or Leto? Leto. He was on a silent retreat in the desert when like the COVID outbreak happened. So he like came out of it, and his first tweet was like, "I've been in a silent retreat. I've walked into a new world."
He's a weird guy.
Very weird guy. The type of guy who I definitely think if you gave him the opportunity to go live in a French cave, he would be like, when's the next flight?
Yeah.
I would do it.
Is Joaquin Phoenix weird or not weird? Remember when
Very
he was
weird.
weird for a
I
while?
thought he was
He's
weird
very
for
weird.
a bit of like a character, a method
No.
acting. just weird.
He's a weird guy.
He's weird, right? Yeah.
100%
okay.
weird guy.
That's what I thought.
I mean, to touch back to our first topic, when he won his Best Actor award last year at the Oscars, he gave like a massive speech about animal consumption and climate change. He shamed his fellow actors for taking private jets to Palm Springs. And then him and Rooney Mara went to a really good vegan burger place in Los Angeles called Monty's Good Burger and took pictures of themselves eating that afterwards.
That's not weird. That's just kind of funny.
Oh, yeah, it's not weird. I'm saying he's an eccentric guy. And I think there's many, many, many indications of this. And I've seen very few examples of him just seeming like a normal dude.
Yeah.
Sean Penn is weird too, right?
He's
the
bad.
3 of them are... He's a
No,
bad
Sean Penn's
man.
bad, though. He's a bad man.
He's
done all this
bad
like
man.
good
Yeah,
stuff
that's what I-
recently, but it doesn't... Just because you do a bunch of good stuff related to vaccines or issues in Haiti doesn't mean that, like, not to get too dark, that you didn't like physically
Abduct and rape
abuse
and beat
yeah.
Madonna.
Yeah. I wasn't gonna. Yeah, that's the stuff. So he's bad. Also a really bad writer. He wrote this novel that's like called like Jimmy Crack Corn. I swear to God, it's called something like that. It's like the corn cob man goes a walking, and it's so bad. But then people take it seriously because it's like Sean Penn wrote a book. But it's like, dog, you're a shitty writer. Someone should go look up the Sean Penn novel. He's bad. So I think we have.
Would love to have you on the show, Sean Penn.
Yeah. So if you're gonna go into a cave, I'd say Penn, hard no. Phoenix, yeah. Leto, maybe.
Yeah.
That would be my power ranking on those 3 Hollywood men, and who I'd want to go to a cave with.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure that's what everyone was thinking. Who would they go into a cave with out of those people?
Yeah.
Wow. I think, Serby, you undersold this topic at the top. I'm just as fascinated as I thought I would be. I'm very interested in all this. I'm going to be thinking about the French cave most of the day, or Le Cave.
Oh, that's good. I really want to speak to one of these participants or their family. So either
Why doesn't
reach
your
out,
partner
please.
love you? Why did they
Yeah.
want you back in the cave? What did you do
Also,
to them?
maybe we're just misreading this because the French call their wine cellars caves. So if someone says they have like a wine cave, it's like
They
the
were in a
cellar.
wine cave.
Yeah. So if you ever are like in like in France and you see like a sort of like the cave divan or whatever it is. So maybe there was just a bunch of French people that were in a wine cellar for 40 days and they were like, we don't want to come out. Like, no wonder they lost track of time. So if you have been to a cave experiment recently, or if you are a Wantreprenuer, or if you have thoughts on beef, we want to hear about it. So you can do 2 things to let us know. You can call us at 213-534-8807. That is 213-534-8807. Or you can email us at culturebinge@wisecrack.co. No M. culturebinge@wisecrack.co. And obviously you can find one of us as well. So today, Serby gave context clues. You want to find an upper class area of the country where people wear expensive sweatpants, and you might find her. Alec, I don't know if he gave any context clues onto where he lives today. And I think I gave one context clue that involved a vegan burger establishment. So happy hunting. But in the meantime, while we wait for people to call and email us, did we get any emails from this past week, Alec?
Yeah, no voicemails, but we've got a couple good emails that I'm going to read. I will pull those up because I did not lose the document again.
He didn't lose it. He's on top of things, everyone. He lost it. Well, and just to say in general, I hope everyone knows this. We love getting your emails. Recently, we've gotten some great fan art that we've really loved. We can't read art, right? Maybe if we got really high on mescaline, we could like interpret the art.
Sweet.
But we love
the
that.
art.
We love the art. We love hearing from everyone in general. And I hope everyone knows if your email or voicemail doesn't get played or read on the show, it doesn't mean we didn't read it, love it, etc. It just means we get stuff. We only have so much time to do this, but we really appreciate it, so keep them coming. Alec, have you found your notes?
Yeah. All right. The first email is from Joe. Wisecrack crew, Wisecast crew. I have an Android. I think this means I can't have iTunes for podcasts. Don't know. Joe's leaving a review as a email. Joe is not aware that there's other podcast platforms where Joe could review us, but it's a good review. I want to read it. 5 stars. If the Wisecast crew were all Jedi, who would they be? Serby would undeniably be Jocasta Nu, the chief librarian in the Jedi archives. Leave her alone. Let her vibe out with her books. But like, if shit's gonna go down, she still carries a lightsaber. That sounds pretty cool. I'm interested in this character and wherever they came from.
Nice.
Alec is Ki Adi Mundi, big ass binary brain. That sounds bad. With outstanding thinking, can hold his own on the Jedi Council, can throw down with the Separatists, and is most likely to be concerned with the droid attack on the Wookiees. Michael Burns, Star Wars expert. Should I be offended by any of this or very...
Oh, this is like real deep. I'm pretty sure that these are all coming from like deep Clone Wars stuff, but I think no one should be offended.
Okay. Michael is Keeneland Voss, witty as all hell, doesn't care about your rules, and is just looking for a good time, bro. Joy, from what little we know of Joy, is Shakti, rarely seen but keeps your operation running. Humble, boss ass kind of shit.
Shakti rules.
Joe, thank you so
got
much.
A good one. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Also, if you are like Joe and you're looking to review us, it means a lot to us. The reason that he did that is because we always encourage you, if you're going to review us, give us some sort of categorization. Say who we would be if we were Star Wars characters, if we were blends of coffee, if we were fine automobiles, anything like that. We love it. And of course, you can go on Stitcher. You can go on iTunes. Make us a Yelp page. I don't know. Find a place to review us.
Yeah.
Only if it's good, though.
Also, Joe said, if I ever somehow become super rich, then create a new Patreon tier, because I've always dreamt of funding the shit out of you guys. We love it, Joe. Anyway, next
I love that.
Super rich, the
I love
Patreon
that.
level could be to marry
I
me.
want us to start the inherited wealth tier of Patreon. I've said it before, I'll say it again, where we invite people who've inherited massive amounts of wealth from dead relatives. They pay a bunch, we'll make you whatever the fuck you want. Sorry, keep going with the emails.
I also just want to shout out, this is long overdue, but Israel Bravo, what up, fellow culture heads, Serby Mukbang. Thank you for the donation. But next email is from Max. Hi, Culture Binge crew. Love listening to your most recent podcast on the Summer of Chaos. I wanted to write in regards to Michael's point of view about talking to strangers and having those short moments. I am both a healthcare and restaurant worker, so I may be more willing to talk to strangers during this strange time, but I've seemed to have more of these moments, whether it's overhearing someone talking about a popular show, funny moments while waiting in line, etc. I think people are craving any sort of human connection outside of their small circle. So even if you're less socially driven, get out there and try to have those little moments. It's brightened my days immensely. Thanks again, Max. Thank you, Max.
Well, nice email, Max.
Appreciate that. And I want to be more like Max and get out there and start having these fun moments of interaction and communal joy. That's great to hear.
And eavesdropping on people is what I'm excited to do at outdoor cafes. Anyway,
email spying on people.
Email from Craig. Hi, Wisecrackies. Love the show. Glad everyone's doing well down the US of A. Looks like you finally have some well-deserved optimism. Unfortunately, up in Canada, it feels like the pandemic has just started. We have the worst COVID numbers at any point and are deep into our 3rd or 4th lockdowns with police checkpoints at bridges and 8 p.m. curfews in some places. Smiley emoji. Hearing the topics of the show about Summer of Chaos and Return to the Office, I had to stop listening. It seems so far away from that up here. It was just painful to listen to. LOL. There's a lot of very negative things here, Craig, punctuated by fun, lighthearted emojis, and I'm just saying it's okay to be sad. Anyway,
that sucks. I didn't realize that. I feel bad now that we're just out here bragging about stuff. It sucks.
Yeah, as someone likely 6 months away from being able to do anything social, obviously this is just up to your comfort levels, but go do something social when you first can, even if it's just hugging a parent or friend. Anyway, love what you do. Keep on keeping on and go and take your shirt off and hug a stranger when it is reasonably safe to do so. when Anthony Fauci says we can.
Wait, did he say take your shirt off and hug a stranger?
He said take your shirt off. I'm saying when
That's
Anthony
awesome.
Fauci says I can take my shirt off and hug strangers, I will do so. Yeah, I'm sorry. You know, we got a lot of international listeners from Brazil, from Canada. The United States has obviously been one of the worst epicenters of the pandemic, and so it feels like, oh well, it's getting better here. Obviously, it's getting better everywhere, but it's not. Obviously, we just talked about India is having a real bad spike. Canada has some vaccine issues, and so sorry. We'll try to not throw it in everyone's face that being vaccinated is cool, which it is.
And as members of the non-terror group called the Flag Smashers, we wish that there weren't these borders and that everyone could get access to vaccinations equitably and fairly. If it wasn't for that damn Falcon and his friends, we could do it.
That's it. Those are the emails.
Oh, that's it.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you so much for everyone writing in. Thank you for listening, Craig. Sorry that we ruined your day and maybe your life, to be honest. I don't know.
No, I hope we didn't ruin your life. Very sorry. And Greg, whenever we can, we'll come to Canada and buy you a Molson or whatever it is you drink, because technically we're kind of employees of a Canadian company. So I think we're allowed to just go whenever we want, and we get things for free. That said, please write and email us, everyone. 213-534-8807. That's 213-534-8807. culturebinge@wisecrack.co. As always, if you like the podcast, subscribe, rate, review, however you can do it. There's many ways. You're all smart. And just make the review fun. We want you. We know that you're all creative, weird, funny, bizarre, insightful, and we want to see that in the reviews. We'll definitely read them on here when we get them. We'll be back in a couple weeks, and just pay attention. We'll try to tweet it out or something like that if we're going to broadcast on a different day than our regular Wednesday, because we want you to know, we want you to be here so you can be in the chat. Unless you're not based, and we don't want you in the chat. But in the meantime, any other comments from y'all for this one? Are we ready to sign off?
Ready to sign off.
Thanks so much for the fan art. Keep it coming.
Thank you for the art. Keep it coming, and we will see you all together in a cave soon. It's gonna get weird. This has been Culture Binge. Goodbye.
Bye.